And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 now of our webinar live stream. And in today's episode, Kevin is going to talk about reporting and getting started, a subject matter that is near and dear to him, one that he's very, very good with using and talking people through. So I think we're in for a real treat this week. Our live stream is up. There's the URL. Thank you for those of you that watched last week. We appreciate it. That email address, which I'm 95% sure works, don't know, never got an email to it, ask ServiceNow at ucdavis.edu. Hopefully we can figure out a better way, Kevin, with season 2 to get some sort of interaction with people.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're gonna generate a lot of interest after this season.
Yeah. All right. Our agenda, as we talked about earlier, is going to be creating your first report, running some reporting variables, the variables of a report, running your first report, and saving that report. We sort of have an expanded agenda as well that if we have time, Kevin's possibly going to deep dive on a couple of those subject matters. And then next week, we're going to continue with reporting. Pretty much whatever we didn't cover this week, we're going to cover next week. And let's get right into it. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. Alrighty. So today we are looking at the reporting interface that pretty much everyone will see when they navigate to it. And the simple way to get started with that is on your filter navigator. The reporting interface that
oh no, technical difficulties over here. Oh my God, hold on. Wait, nope, there we go. All right, continue.
We're going to continue?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to continue. All right. Okay, so your filter navigator over here on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll have a reports category that you can expand. And the get started actually doesn't take you here. That takes you to an external ServiceNow website. We're not going to worry about that right now. Let's look at view and run, which is where we are here. Now, if you do not have any reports, this is what you're going to be presented with. It's an interesting kind of tabbed breakdown description of what all of the different types of reports are. Now, you can access this information later. We'll show you that. Let's just get started. I'm going to choose a real simple one. We're going to go with a bar graph. So, in a report, there are several key fields at the top of the report. I'm going to go through them, but one by one, and kind of detail their importance to the report. So at the top here is an empty field for a name. We'll get to that in just a moment. The most important is the data field. This is where you're going to select the ServiceNow table that you run reports against. The report that 95% of you are going to be using is going to be the incident table, because that accesses your INC0 number records. The type, as we selected in the introduction, is going to be a bar. Now, from this dropdown, we can go back and choose to change that if we'd like. If you'd like to return to that information on the get started after you've saved a report, the question mark brings up a small window that basically has the same information. And grouping by, this is based off of the fields on the incident record. An easy one is, let's take a look at contact type. And I have to find it here.
You can just start to type it in if you want, if it's easier.
That is very true. So Jason points out another way to find. You can scroll, you can type, contact type. So what this is going to do is, from our previous videos, the contact types we have for incidents: phone, email, chat, walk-in, self-service, service hub. Those are all variables that you can report against. Stacking is an advanced feature. We'll get to that next week. Aggregate. The default is count. The majority of the time, you're going to leave it there. We may go into its secondary features in our advanced episode. Number of groups. If, for example, your group by contains variables greater than a handful, you can choose how many you would like to show. For example, you're grouping by configuration item. They're somewhere in the realm of 200 to 300 configuration items. Seeing those on a bar graph would be pretty unreadable. Now the system default is 12, and you can choose to show all, 10, 12, 15, 20. And then the ones that don't fall under those numbers will be dropped into an other category, and you can choose to hide that or not. In the case of the contact type, we're not going to go beyond, I think, 6, so we're not too worried about which number of groups we're using. So I'm going to take a brief moment and split off from bar to show you a couple of fields that are specific to other types of reports. I'm going to go to the spline. Now this is a flowing line graph, and you'll notice on the right hand side here the fields have changed. We have a trend by, the per, and then aggregate shows up again. The trend by is a series of information that is default to the functionality of ServiceNow. The most common things that you're going to be looking at in a trend by is when it was closed, when it was created, maybe when work started. So I'm going to do opened. And now the variable that you would look at is broken down into year, quarter, month, week, day, hour, and date. So the hour is 0 through 24, and the day is Sunday through Saturday. And that would be the interval in which it's showing the information. Note that all of the different types of reports typically use one of those two configurations. The trend by, like the spline, or the bar, which just has an aggregation. And I'm going to go ahead and now take a moment to run this report. And there's the run in the upper right-hand corner, and there is the start of your first report. Now you notice it is grouped by our contact type, email, phone, self-service. It's going to order them in the order in which has the most quantity. The top here is the title. Now, because we didn't specify a title at the top, it inputs the login ID of the person creating the report and the timestamp. That value can be changed by inputting a name. If you wanted to, you can also highlight over individual functions of a report and then open those to actually create it will take you to a report of that subset of data. Word of warning, if you do that before you save the report that you're on, you will lose the existing settings. It's best not to navigate into a report until you have one saved. So I'm going to go up here and we're going to put in a name, and I'm just going to type in example report. And then I'm going to hit save. Now, there are actually multiple ways to save in a report. And to better show how that works, I'm going to go back to the view run to get to the main reporting page, and I'm going to pull up our example report as it shows up here. Now that it's an established report, there are different ways to save that become available. Update. This will make changes to your existing report and then take you back to the view run page. Insert. This will insert a new copy of the report and return you to a previous page. Insert and stay creates a new copy of the report, but then stays. Now this one is probably the one that people are going to be most using when you're making a new report based off of another one. So if I make changes to this report, but I still want my original report, but I'm also not done with this new report that I'm creating, make sure that you change the name so that it doesn't overwrite your previous report. And then when you do an insert and stay, it will keep you on this new report create that new report without overwriting the old one. We can also choose to delete a report. You can add it to your dashboard here, and then sharing, export settings, export PDF. Those are advanced topics. We'll get to those at a later time. So how do you organize reports once you've created a whole bunch? Well, again, we're going to go back to the view run to look at your main reports page. You'll see we have our example report and our example report number 2. These are grouped under the My Reports. But there are other options up here. So what are they? Group. These are reports that are owned by somebody else that have been shared with you. Sharing is an advanced feature. We'll cover that at a later time. Global. These are reports that have been specifically designed for anyone in the ServiceNow instance to use. So far, we haven't spent much time at UC Davis ITSM creating reports specifically for UC Davis. So the majority of these are ServiceNow defaults, and their value is hit or miss. The all is self-explanatory. It shows all, global, group, and My Reports. Once you have an existing report, you'll notice that there's now a Create Report that's showing up in the upper right-hand corner. The gear wheel up here doesn't actually do as much as you hope. It just configures what columns are visible on this page. And that pretty much sums up what we're going to cover today for starting a basic report. Next week, there's some advanced things as well as the filter conditions that we're going to get into. Jason?
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin, we have a couple extra minutes, so I have some questions that I thought about when you were doing your excellent presentation. You had mentioned all. I take it that that's not going to show me someone else's reports if they're not in my group, is it?
That is correct.
Okay. So there's a permission set that if you and your reports, if we're not in the same group and you did make a global report, that I would not see that.
That is
so
correct.
There's some privacy.
Yes. All reports created by default are assigned to you and you only.
Okay. Okay. How about we go back to make a new report?
Alrighty.
What if we do a report of, I don't know, let's do tickets that I've resolved or I've opened. Let's kind of like look at one if it's a person, because I think a lot of people are going to be running reports on themselves, or if you're a supervisor, maybe like a particular person.
Okay.
Is it possible that we have some data to do that? Just, you know, a basic metric of some kind?
Well, some of that's going to get into the filter conditions a little bit, but we'll use this as an example to show the list type as well, because it's kind of a good type to show.
All right.
Because you get to choose what columns are available to you. So it defaults to your last table. So we're in incident. And we're going to pull up list form now, and I'm going to group these by, you know what, I'm not going to group them. Now, if I were to run this report right now, it's going to pull up every single incident in ServiceNow and would take forever to probably run. I'm going to add a filter condition. And we're going to go way into these next week. But these should look familiar because they're the same type of functions that filters themselves operate on, which we spoke about much earlier in the season. So I'm going to choose a standard incident variable, which is assigned to is. And now you can choose the person.
You can put me if you want, or
sure, let's do Jason. Okay, now this is all of the tickets assigned to Jason. Well, that's not going to help us very much because, you know, he's been working for IT for quite some time and there's probably a lot there. So I'm going to add an and filter condition.
How about if we do, because it's EPAR time at UC Davis. So what if we do like created, I don't know, say June 1st of last year?
Alrighty. So we're going to do created on, and then there's a ton of time variables. Some of them are more useful than others, but because we're looking for a specific date, we're going to click on the calendar. And you said June 1st of last year?
Yeah, anything created on or after.
Oh, okay, we can do that. So you're going to want to set the at or after first before specifying the date, because it might reset your date on you. So it's just a good practice to set your fields in order from left to right.
There you go.
Running it does not save it, but it does give you a chance to look at it, make sure your variables are working out okay. Now on the user that we're currently logged into, number is the default sorting type for this particular view. And it looks like we're sorting from newest to oldest. So we can see that 3,800 incidents are assigned to Jason in the last year.
In case you're wondering, Kevin has a lot more than I did. But yeah, go ahead and we'll leave it there. So the other thing that we got like another 2 minutes. What if we say made this a, I don't know, like a visual, like a different type, maybe like a bar chart or a pie chart, or I will let you use your best judgment on maybe showing us a visual representation, even though we've already seen bar.
So let's try this. I gotta see if it's, there it is. I'm personally a fan of the donut.
Ah, yeah.
So here, I'm actually going to take advantage of my previous topic, which was the number of groups. So Jason's interested in what types of issues he's been working on.
I like that.
So we're going to do configuration items. And we're going to do, number of groups is 20. And we're going to do show other, because, we want to see how many of them they're not within the 20. And I'm going to run that.
Cool.
And wow, there's a lot. That's, some of this is probably spam. There are ways that tickets can be cataloged in such that they don't get a configuration item.
I'm going to say those are all spam because a configuration item is required, usually on a ticket.
That's a good catch. So you can actually fix this with filter conditions. Configuration item is not empty.
There you go.
And then I'm going to run that again. There we go. Now we have a little bit better data. Okay, so computing accounts, and my admissions, and passphrase resets, and ServiceNow, and Simpa, and on and on. And you see this nice chunk here. Well, that's his other. Those are 348 that fall outside of the top 20 categories. Now 20 is quite a lot, so let's say you're really looking at your big hitters and you don't care about other.
There you go.
You now see that the bulk of the work done out of the top 10 is computing accounts with a little over 32% of his overall volume. So that's a way of taking a list and turning it into a visual.
That was also a little bit more, I think, than Kevin had originally anticipated, but I wanted to fill our 20 minutes because Kevin has so much good insight, and I think with reports, and this is where hopefully we can get to a place where reports can be offered by the service management team. There's just so much you can do with it, but I think sometimes people are hesitant to get started, or they don't know how to get started, or they're really intimidated by the interface. So we're really hopeful that this video, both this week and next week, is insightful to get you started. We understand that you probably don't want a donut chart of how many tickets that I've opened in the last year, but hopefully it's enough to kind of get you started, get you situated and figure out kind of what your next move is with reports. Kevin, anything to add before we finish up?
No, not today. Looking forward to talking about the filter conditions in an advanced way next week.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in as always. We will see you next Wednesday around 1 o'clock.
Enjoy.